Is this the year you want to grow your business? Do you want to expand your team? Build a new office? Hey, it's Tug, and I want to tell you about First Liberty Building and Loan. Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you're dealing with a new person? You won't have to with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they can help you too. They know the patterns, they know the ebbs and flows, and they know business. Now the Frost family wants to know you. FirstLibertyGA.com. Buying a building, buying a franchise, or expanding. Reach out and spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. FirstLibertyGA.com. By the way, if you're a young banker and you want to work with a team that's faith-friendly with a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan at FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
There's a fine line between genius and insanity, and we're walking it. It's the Marketing Madhouse.
I'm Moira, your host for Marketing Madhouse, and today I am very excited to have someone with me who I think has been with me almost every day of the past 2 weeks. We've been hanging out. So a friend, a former client, a current vendor, always supporter, Joanne Herold. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, awesome. Great to be here.
So she has been the CMO of companies like Honeybaked Ham, an interface to the VP of Brand and Communications for Arby's, to a very interesting career arc now. She has her own company. She's at GSU working as a professor, bringing up our next generation, but also the marketing roundtable there. We've been involved with AMA Atlanta. I mean, so many connective things, but talk to who is Joanne Herold now? I think lots of people know Joanne, and everybody says, "Oh, Joanne, yes, she's everywhere." But who are you now?
Well, you mentioned it. I'm a recovering corporate marketer and got a great opportunity all through my career to work for Honeybaked twice and Interface and Arby's. But now I'm the author of my next chapter. And so my purpose is to help others significantly grow, and whether that's through consulting and growing people's business, coaching, helping individuals grow, nonprofits. I do a lot of work in the nonprofits, and it's just been an awesome chapter, and I love it because I'm the author of it.
So you're the author figuratively and literally, and I think that's a common theme lately. So we're just going to go off script for most of the morning probably, but talk a little bit about that. What was it like to write a book? And let's talk about the literal author part.
The literal author. So this book my first book has been inside of me since I was 7. And it's called Lead with Love and a Life I Love. And it's a celebration of friends, mentors, families who helped along the way. The process, I don't know, you know Jeff Hillemeyer? Yep. Jeff has written 4 books. He said, hey, and this was January 1st, 2020. I'm about to write my 4th book. I know you want to write a book. So we were accountability partners. So for 40 days, he and I wrote every day.
40 days and 40 nights.
40 days and 40 nights. We wrote every day. We text, I wrote 20 words. I wrote 2,000 words. But in the end, was able to get through that piece of the marathon, which is the writing part. What I learned, though, is so there's 3 parts of the marathon. There's the writing, and I know you've written a book too. The writing, and then the editing is a whole other marathon, and then the launch. And so
I don't know that any of us have the launch part down, and I will say, I think everybody has a book in them. It is hard to get that book out of you, but I found that it is an accomplishment to get the book out, but as soon as you get the book out, you're like, now here's what I really would like to do with a book, because I do feel like there's a process of, like you said, everybody's walking around with that first book, and then you get the first book out, and you're like, now what?
Now what? Yeah.
So let's talk about the now what. So I think that's a good segue. So you've had a career shift in recent times. You called yourself a recovering CMO. And doing a lot of soul searching, as most of the people I know have the last 3 to 4 years, right? There's been a lot of change in the world. There's been a change in business and business structures. So almost everybody that I know is changing in some way or another. But one of the topics that you suggested we could talk about is this idea, and I think it's a future book that you're talking about, which is Future Struck. And being really intentional about designing a career. And it's never too late to start. So can you just talk a little bit about that, about this idea of being future struck?
Yeah, you mentioned it. There's so many people who are looking for purpose and meaning in what they do. And you spend 25% of your life at work. So it may as well be something you love.
I don't know who those people are because for me it's 75%.
Well,
most people spend.
Right.
Okay,
yeah, on average. So it may as well be something you love. And so something I've spent a lot of time on is figuring out what drives my purpose, my passions, what do I love to do, and then who can I do it with? So the people aspect of it.
Yep.
And then what does the world need? So is there a market for this?
Yep.
And then put those wheels in motion and really start to network and try to find those opportunities and show up and be there.
You brought up an interesting point just now with the who you do the work with, because that is as much a part of the design of where you go next. And I do feel like there's a lot of people now that I've spent all these years with these people that I didn't really like, or all these years with people that were working in different directions or at cross odds or not, didn't have values alignment with me. And I do think it is so important to be able to be around people that matter to you. I had done Georgia Tech has the Impact Speakers series. And I did a talk there to a bunch of technical students who were about to graduate in different engineering programs. And that was one of the things I talked about. You're all very focused on engineering and an engineering job, but what you need to be looking at is, do these companies bring up engineers, and how do you have a voice, and how do you get elevated? And so much of it is about finding your people.
Absolutely. Nobody gets to where they're going without other people.
No.
And because of whether you're 25% of your life or 50%, might as well be with people you enjoy.
Exactly. So one of these phrases, and I'm calling out words, when we were preparing, you talked about designing your career. When did you know you were designing your career? Because I heard you talk recently, and you talked a lot about, when the universe opens up new opportunities or presents you with a new doorway to walk through. When did you go from trying to decide what to do next to thinking about it more proactively in terms of that designing a career?
Probably 13 years ago. I was very intentional about going to Arby's, and Hala Model Mog is, and Hala's, everybody knows Hala.
But for everybody that does not know Hala, she was Susan B. Komen Foundation. She was head of the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce for many years. She was the head of Wendy's. Arby's, Wendy's.
She was the president of Arby's.
And the first female CEO of a food company, is that correct?
Correct. Church's Chicken. Yes.
Yeah. So she was a real trailblazer.
Correct. And she's somebody, and this is Sheryl Sandberg would have a heart attack, but I actually sent her an email and asked her if she'd be my mentor. Didn't know her. And this was a long time ago. And she wrote back, yes, and let's meet for lunch. And I got to know her that way. And then years later, when she went to Arby's, I ran into her at an event, told her I was interested. And she hired me. And
just so like that.
I got the great opportunity to work for Arby's. I loved being a part of a big brand, making a difference.
At an important time, too. When you can be a part of it, there's working for brands that are high name and blue chip, and then there's working for them in periods of huge change where, again, our own learning comes so much further along, I think.
Yeah, and at that time, Arby's was in a turnaround, and So I got to work on some great projects as far as innovation and new products, but I also got to be the vice chair of the Arby's Foundation. And we reimagined what the Arby's Foundation would be. And it was around, at the time, ending childhood hunger. And so we were able to raise over $18 million at that time.
That's crazy.
To help end childhood hunger. So that was a great, fun time. I was also very purposeful and intentional about Interface.
Yeah.
I had followed them for many, many years, and they are a leader in sustainability.
Yep.
Love their products. So got the opportunity to be the CMO, the first global CMO at Interface.
The companies that want to do good in the world or leave it better than they got it.
Yeah, so very, very much about purpose and walking the talk. And so that was a great opportunity. And then had the opportunity to go back and be the CMO at Honeybaked Ham. And I felt like I had some things I wanted to finish.
Right, second time around.
Correct, yeah, because I was with them early in my career for 16 years. And so that was a ton of fun and got to do some great things and help them grow and modernize the brand.
And not everybody gets to have that second act. You know, you so often, you know, we'll have a conversation and we'll say, I wish I had said, or I wish I had done. And so that must have been really fulfilling to be able to go back in and say, no, this was the thing we really should have done.
Yeah, and kind of back to people. I really loved the people there and got to do great work. Also got to really be my authentic self, and which was super important.
Yeah, which is nice.
It is nice.
You're a nice person, which it is hard sometimes to find your way in larger corporate cultures and be basically good and nice and trying to help people, being effective and knowing what you're leading, but, you know, to find your place in, you know, we've worked with lots of companies that do not have that culture where you have to really be, you know, competitive or out for blood all the time.
Exactly.
So, you know, one thing I'm going to say, we're going to go to a break in a minute. I know this is supposed to be about marketing, but, you know, for me, marketing and pursuing vision and doing things that help create infrastructures and, you know, all of those things are connected, right? And so we're going to talk a little more practitioner marketing, but I think you're going to see us weaving back and forth between why we're doing what we're doing, how it helps in a broader sense. Some practitioner marketing, obviously you've been a CMO, but you know, I think that is what is most important about some of the transition that's happened in the marketing world is that the CMO is not about comms, right? It is not about messages you push out to buyers. It really is, in a strategic sense, about who you are in the world, where you fit not only in the mind of the buyer, but people and communities and employees, all of that. And so, you know, you've had an opportunity to be that kind of strategic CMO, and very exciting for me to see you take it in a new direction now. So we will be right back with Joanne Herold on the Marketing Madhouse.
Spring is here and baseball is back.
You can't forget the Derby. I love the hats. Do you have yours yet?
My hat? I treated myself to a whole outfit.
If you want to be able to treat yourself, then you should check out the Nest Savings Account at LGE Community Credit Union, where they want you to reach your savings goals faster.
Take it from a pair of 680 The Fan wives. Head to lgeccu.org to find out what makes their team #1 in Georgia.
What are your plans for your business this year? Hey, it's Tug. Do you want to expand and grow? Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you got a new person to deal with? You have to start all over again? You don't have that with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they want to know you. Unlike big banks, they want to partner with you. The Frost family knows the patterns. They know the ebbs and flows. They know business. Get to know them at firstlibertyga.com. Building a building, buying a franchise, expanding. Reach out to them. Spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. You do that at FirstLibertyGA.com. And by the way, if you're a young banker and want to work with a team that is faith-friendly and has a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to them today. First Liberty Building and Loan. FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
We're back with Marketing Madhouse, and our guest today, Joanne Herold. So we're going to do a hard shift back to marketing, practitioner marketing. You recently wrote an article, and I know you're involved with Fast Company, with their executive group, and you just published an article, The Marketing P's. And for any of us who have been in marketing a long time, there are P's, there are C's, there are so many rules of thumb. And all of them always evolving and being redefined as they should be, right, as a profession rolls out. So talk about the 10 P's or some of the P's or the P's you care about the most.
So thanks, Moira. Yeah. I teach at Georgia State and use the textbooks. And what I'm realizing is the textbooks don't reflect modern day marketing P's. Mm-hmm. These P's were crafted 60 years ago by a guru, which was great at the time, and it was a way to kind of have a framework for the P's. So the original P's are place, product, price, promotion. But think of how much has changed in 60 years in the landscape. And so
promotion especially.
Exactly. So I'm on a mission to teach up-and-comers the new marketing P's and even current clients as we're thinking about the role of marketing and what it's supposed to do. So the first P is platform. Back in the day, you were able to watch, there were 3 TV shows, maybe 3 radio stations, and you could run your ads and think about...
it was much more singular.
Think about all the platforms today. And the up-and-coming generation, they're not listening or watching any mainstream. It's all TikTok. And that's where they get their news. So platform is one. Promotion. Think about promotion and how much that's changed. It's you could run a promotion on a radio station, and that was kind of all you had to do. Place. So Omni and brands and businesses are really open 24/7.
I think a lot about all these online businesses that now are brick and mortar, and the brick and mortar that are now online. There's so much switching going on there. Yeah,
and consumers expect if you tweet them, somebody's gonna get back to them and immediately. So marketing also is about performance. And CEOs and boards expect that marketing is going to pay out. And if it doesn't pay out, how do we make sure that it drives the growth?
And that's one of the most significant things to me over the last 10 years. I feel that, 20 years ago, everybody thought that a CMO was a creative at heart. Or it was about voice and vision, the visual of a brand. And now it really is about the performance. How do we engage customers that buy the most margin? How do we do the activities that drive the most traffic and traffic that converts to, so that whole financial discipline being in there from a performance standpoint.
Yeah, and the best marketers are joined at the hip with the CFO or analytics partner so that they can watch the performance of what they're doing. And sometimes the good ones, there may be a surplus in the budget and the CFO's asking the marketing person to spend more because they like what they're seeing as far as the performance. So that's something that great marketers should do. Personalization. So
Huge.
Consumers want, they don't want somebody spamming them, sending emails, Insta ads. They want it personalized to what they want to buy.
Another thing on that one that we see a lot is, most of your customers are already your customers, and so you should be leveraging that information about them to not, if somebody just bought something, don't promote buying that. Promote buying the next thing that they should buy in conjunction. So I think personalization is much more than, Bob, we know you like whatever, and more about where are they on their journey of a customer, lifetime with you.
Well, and I'm sure if you use Siri or Alexa and you're asking about something and then all of a sudden in your phone you get an ad. Well, that's, I mean, it's kind of creepy, but it's also good personalization as far as somebody's trying to target.
Connect the dots,
Connect with you. Price, poor price. I think it's the most under-leveraged of the P's, but one that can have the most power as far as, and going back to the economics, it's, how much can you charge for your product and not have it erode. But price is also, people will pay, they want more value than what they pay. So really leveraging price and price points. Positioning. So it's how
my favorite, I think, positioning. I spent a lot of time with positioning.
Talk about what are
positioning. Well, I always think of the Al Reese Reese Trout book. People are always moving. The categories are moving, the competitive set's moving, and what buyers need from you is moving. And I feel like people get into a flow of pumping out content to the same people with the same number of touch points and really don't think about the fact that 2 years ago they saw us as this kind of company and this is what they valued. But 5 years from now, we're going to be in this category and they have totally different expectations. And so to me, that's what positioning is really understanding that. And it informs what your marketing team looks like, what your marketing activities are, and the expectations that customers have for your brand. And in a lot of cases, and then we'll go back to you, but, we work with a lot of hyper-growth mid-market companies, and those are the companies that are changing categories or moving up and moving over and challenging, the leading companies. And there's a lot of change management that goes with that because, what got you here won't get you there. So there's a lot of change management associated with changing your position.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you don't want to be a sea of sameness. You want to stand out and stand for something, which is actually my next P, which is purpose and values. And Gen Z, it's all about what does your brand stand for? What's your values? Does it align with who I am? So that's a critical P. Planet. So what are we doing for our planet? And what's our footprint? And how do we really nurture the planet? And then the last one is people. And that was not ever contemplated in the original P's, but your people, and whether that's your employees or your consumers
or channel partner, like there's nobody gets to market by themselves, know, and so there's a lot in the channel that I think is overlooked, particularly in the B2B world that we play in, dealers and distributors, and it's complicated, and you really do need to look at those different value propositions along a supply chain. A couple things that I made note of as you were talking, and it has to do with both platform and people. I think that people think that you have a buyer or a set of buyers, and therefore these are the tactics that are relevant today. And I think where people really need to get clear is who are their buyers or who are the sets of buyers, because you could have an entirely different platform strategy depending on this product is sold to boomers versus this one's Xers versus this one's millennials, this one's Z. And I was just looking at some information that Gartner put out this morning about the sale and how digital the sale is, and some generational data. And everybody is different in how they do that, which means you need to understand who buys and what they value and what they expect of your brand, and deliver it differently and then through different channels for those different buyers. And the planet too. We do a lot of work with industrial companies, and to some people, let's say, I think a lot of the listeners to the podcast, sometimes they're smaller businesses, small business owners, or under $10 million companies coming up. And if you're a small local business, you may say to yourself, planet, I don't have any impact on the planet. Where does planet fall in here? But a lot of companies have. If you're a tangible goods company, if you have byproduct, if you, just consumption, just thinking about food products, right? All of the food waste. there is always a connectivity to the planet, and it might seem small, but just taking a little time to understand what that is and message it in and be intentional about, we could change these 3 things. It makes a difference. We could talk about it, and it helps our customers understand that we are being responsible within the context of where we have impact.
Absolutely. Even a team building day, clean up a river or clean up a park or
Totally.
helps the planet.
Yep. And anything you can do. All right. So I'm going to do a quick departure here. So it's the Marketing Madhouse. And one of the things that I have the most fun with is asking people about insanity that has happened to them on the job, in marketing, along the way, on their career. Can you talk about a totally insane situation you were put into on your journey? Could be pressure from an executive. It could be something that went wrong. I had somebody on last week that did a PR event where they were supposed to they were on a golf course and they were going to drop ping pong balls, but there was a huge wind. So all the branded balls were blown off into the ocean and, the event didn't go off.
I want to talk about something positive that I mentioned. I went back to Honeybaked the second time, and I went back out and I left the brand for 8 years. So went back went back to the brand 8 years to the day I left. And the first thing I did was go out and talk to franchisees, and franchisees are small,
vocal people,
business owners, and obviously very passionate about their business, their investment. And so I went and, in these big rooms and heard and really listened to them. And the big takeaway was we were not spending enough money in marketing, and they want it to be like the bigger brands. And so they, the franchisees, actually voted to contribute more into marketing.
Oh, my God. That has to be a first time in history.
They awesome franchisees. And so through that, we created a campaign. Still didn't have a lot of money, but had enough where we could start.
You had a mandate, and you had the intention to spend more.
Exactly. So worked with a creative partner, created Kelly Baked. Very different from how the brand had communicated. And we needed the messaging to be disruptive to stand out because we didn't have a lot of money. And so through that, we were able to run national television, not many points, but but then use the creative to cut into digital. And so through it, I did not expect this. It became very popular. It became part of people's vernacular. You don't want to be a Kelly Baked. And sorry to the Kellys out there. We love you.
There's nothing wrong with Kellys.
We love Kelly. But it became.
It was a very funny commercial. It was really good.
And it grew their sales. And so the franchisees were delighted. And then it won an Effie, which is, and it's in advertising, it's not all about winning awards. But this is one where it was based on effectiveness and back to one of the P's, performance. So it worked.
Absolutely. Now, and it's wonderful when you have all those things come together. And I do recommend everybody go watch the Kelly Baked commercials because they were really, really effective. And you'll see yourself in them.
Absolutely.
So when we talked, and we have so many themes, and we're going to run out of time, and I know you'll come back another time, but one of the things that you talked about was the serendipity of showing up and getting there. And I think serendipity, part of this is just you and I have tripped over each other continuously. And actually, let me interject our crazy serendipitous circle. This is a good place for that. So Joanne and I, let me go back. There's a person named Vanessa Kwan that I worked with in the 90s at an agency called Folio Z. And so we worked together back then and moved on with our lives. And she was in tech startups, and then I was off down the agency path and come to meet Joanne Herold, and we're involved in AMA Atlanta, and so we're very involved. And then we have many, many touch points and organizations that we're involved in together. And so then, fast forward, all of a sudden I'm reunited with Vanessa Kwan. We're doing some work together, and she's helping with lining up guests on the podcast. And she also says, my daughter is a student at Georgia State and is looking for an internship. Would you consider that? So she sends me the resume of the daughter, and I'm like, oh, that'd be amazing. And she says, yes, my daughter has a professor at Georgia State who apparently knows you and is a big fan, and it was you. So she was in the middle of scheduling us to do this podcast while getting an internship for her daughter who's in your class at Georgia State. So that's one of those things that over a long career, you really start to see more and more of that, right? This connection of people that were colleagues who become clients, who become vendors and supporters and mentors. And I know you've had a lot of that. So, this topic of serendipity really speaks to me. But what do you mean when you talk about showing up and getting there?
So I know during the pandemic, everything shut down, offices closed. We were all on Zoom. That's fine. Very one-dimensional, though.
Yes.
Now that the world's getting back, I know it's controversial about how many days people go into the office, but there is nothing like being in person, having that connection. And I've found, I call it God winking. There's so many magical things that happen when I show up, and and it's true. It's so much easier. I think sometimes networking things. Gosh, this is so hard. When I go, though, something always fabulous happens.
It's true.
And whether it's a new friend, a new client, a speaking engagement, I do love the God winking because it's true. That's where all of a sudden I had no idea I would have this connection point today with so-and-so, and that's exactly what the person I just met with needed to hear, and so I'm going to connect. I mean, that happens a lot between you and I in terms of referring people back and forth. And even Vanessa and Alexander, her daughter, who's in the class, what a small world.
It's crazy.
And we never would have had that connection if we hadn't shown up. And
I am all about showing up and getting there. We're in office and we're on site with our clients, and there is no comparison between having people forward you a document or a plan and having a 20-minute Zoom and going in office and saying, what are you doing here, and how's it working, and how do we feel, and I like you, by the way, and let's eat while we're at it.
Exactly.
If we can get food in there, I'm always happy. So let's have, I think we just have a couple more seconds in this section. And I want to dig into this happiness thing. So, you have a book, Living on a Smile, and you talk a lot about smiling and happiness. And that's not a natural state for all people. A lot of people are cynical or snarky or not happy about the way the last 4 years have gone, or, have really, everybody's carrying burdens that we don't know, right? But some people find people that naturally lead with happiness and smiling to be fake or naive and, just don't think that's possible. So what is your advice for people who smiling all the time and being happy or approaching the world with glass half full is not their natural state?
I would say, and this is something I've learned, I practice happiness. So I'm the CEO of me. So I get to decide if I want to be happy, if I want to have a bad day. But every morning I wake up and, maybe there's something I don't want to do that day, but then I'll flip it and turn it into a positive and try to tackle that first. Yeah. But I really work hard to have a positive mindset, to find the joy, find the happiness, and why not?
Right.
And if for me, if somebody, she's too happy, she's too smiley, well, maybe, I want to attract positive
happiness and positivity. Yes, because what you put and what you surround yourself with is what manifests.
Absolutely.
In your life.
And I do have a saying, tell me your 5 best friends and I'll tell you who you are. And so I like to be around positive, happy, optimistic people.
And I'll just throw this in here. I don't think it was apparent to me until recently, but you brought up who their closest friends are. Carol Godfrey's one of my closest friends, and her husband's dealing with ALS. And I heard you speak a couple of years ago and learned about your brother, and I hadn't heard the story about, tragic accident that he had and managed to come back from. But surprisingly, it's the people I know who have had the greatest tragedies or impacts or life and death potential scares that are among the most positive. And you would think those would be the people that would be walking around with a chip on their shoulder, right? But I think that it just shows you how much you really do have when you've seen the other side of that.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I tell my kids, if you're having a bad day or you feel like things are terrible, go serve someone else that is in a worse situation, because it very quickly will put things in perspective for you. And I think that's where purpose comes back in too. You and I are involved with Leadership Atlanta and a lot of nonprofits, and I do feel that I could be in the middle of a crazy day and feel very out of control of it, and then all of a sudden engage with those people and go, oh right, there are so many more complex, more difficult things happening in the world, and how blessed am I, right, that these are these minor inconveniences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to be back in a minute with Joanne Herold on Marketing Madhouse, and going to talk a little bit more about purpose. I think we're gonna dig into purpose and maybe bring it back around with some final thoughts on marketing. We'll be right back.
Spring is here and baseball is back.
You can't forget the Derby. I love the hats. Do you have yours yet?
My hat? I treated myself to a whole outfit.
If you want to be able to treat yourself, then you should check out the Nest Savings Account at LGE Community Credit Union, where they want you to reach your savings goals faster.
Take it from a pair of 680 The Fan wives. Head to lgeccu.org to find out what makes their team #1 in Georgia.
What are your plans for your business this year? Hey, it's Tug. Do you want to expand and grow? Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you got a new person to deal with? You have to start all over again? You don't have that with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they want to know you. Unlike big banks, they want to partner with you. The Frost family knows the patterns. They know the ebbs and flows. They know business. Get to know them at firstlibertyga.com. Building a building, buying a franchise, expanding. Reach out to them. Spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. You do that at firstlibertyga.com. And by the way, if you're a young banker and want to work with a team that is faith-friendly and has a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to them today. First Liberty Building and Loan. firstlibertyga.com. That's firstlibertyga.com.
And we're back with Marketing Madhouse and my guest today, Joanne Herold. So wonderful to see you, and I'll see you next Monday and probably on email later today too. But it's just so interesting to be able to step back from day-to-day work or tasks that we're working on and kind of talk about philosophy, not just the intellect of things that we're doing, but the heart of what we're doing, which I think is a common thread for both of us. So I want to talk for a second. I did notice in your profile on LinkedIn, because I actually do prepare for these things, even with friends, that you recently got a coaching certification. Can you just talk a little bit about why that, why coaching, and what is that about?
So part of what I loved about being a CMO and leading teams was coaching and helping people grow in their careers and just in their life. So I started researching, do I need to be certified? Do I need training to do this? And I probably talked to 100 people. Half said yes, half said no. And what I ended up doing, I did a ton of research on programs. Emory's right in my backyard. I ended up going to Emory University and getting an advanced coaching diploma. And it's done through their School of Business and School of Medicine. And what I learned is I was not a coach. I was a great mentor. And coaching is very different. Coaching is about asking very powerful questions and doing about 20% of the talking and letting the person who's being coached do the really hard work, because the answer lives inside the person, in them. Yes. And so if they are really talking through it could be a job or a marriage or health. They've got to want to take these hard steps to, improve and change their habits or change a job. And so it's very powerful. The coaching changed my life.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the percentages. Everybody says you're not going to use math, but I use percentages so frequently in terms of where the priority focus is supposed to be. In fact, there was an article recently in Inc. magazine that I used with our account service team that was about, particularly for junior people that are coming up. I think they believe they're supposed to have a survey or a questionnaire and ask all the questions and fill in the blanks, and then you'll have your marching orders. And there was an article in there about, and I'm going to get the ratio wrong, but there's an article that's like the perfect ratio of speaking to listening in a sales engagement. Now, this is not coaching, but sales engagement, it was something like 43 to 57% or something. Do those even add up, right? I think so. Because in a persuasive environment, if you are simply listening the whole time, you're not interjecting, you're not building on. And so you do need a voice in that. But the 80-20 is really interesting because it's like, I'm setting up a framework for you, but I want you to do the work here, right? Work these things out. So that's really interesting.
And it's really simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Well, it takes patience to wait while they think and wait while they work it out.
Well, and being a consultant and a practitioner, I want to give them the answer. But then it takes the power out of their hands as far as
owning their answer and then being accountable for what they do with it. So one of the things, and I know you and I are engaged with a variety of companies right now who are on a transformation journey. And so you've mentioned working at Interface, which has always been on a transformation journey, particularly in the area of sustainability. Many of our clients, whether they're industrial or technology companies, they're all going through transformation, and that is not only transformation in the market, but transformation as a business culture, right? So they're bringing their people along. And so I want to talk for a minute about what I think of as very holistic marketing and brand leadership, which is more than just what are our products and do people know us for our products. And so I always ask this question at the end, but I want to understand from you, from where you sit, having been a CMO and knowing a lot of blue chip companies and being in peer groups with a lot of those CMOs, as well as a lot of the nonprofit work that you do. Is there a company that you feel does a great job both with marketing as a brand, internally with their employees, and then in the community as a corporate citizen? So who do you think checks all those boxes? And it could be multiple companies.
Well, I love Inspire Brands.
Okay.
I think Paul Brown, I have just amazing respect for him, what he's been able to transform and innovate and grow, and he is a big culture catalyst. And the brands that
talk about the brands for people that don't know who Inspire Brands is.
Inspire Brands are Arby's restaurant group. It's Buffalo Wild Wings. It's Sonic. The Rourke group, I don't think it's part of Inspire, but just brought Subway. So Atlanta has become really ground zero.
Restaurant hub.
Yes,
Central.
ground zero. And it's a fast-paced environment. Anybody who works in food is, working very hard.
Yes.
It's a way, though, to serve a big customer base and do good in the community. And I just have a tremendous amount of respect for what Inspire Brands has done, what Paul has been able to lead, and the work they do in the community. So that's a brand, a business
that's really striking all that balance. And how long has Paul been involved?
He's been involved at least 10 years.
Okay.
I had a great opportunity to work with him when he came in as in the Arby's role, and he's really grown that business.
I'm going to throw you a curveball since this is not on our prep, but I'm just thinking about it now when you're talking about him having come in, 10 years ago. And what a wonderful name, Inspire Brands, right? It's very relevant to this. But I think about we were doing a lot of work with Chick-fil-A right when the pandemic started, and I can think of, food and restaurant is probably half of the business in the country. Anyway, people do not understand what a concentration food and food business is. But what a complete 180, 360, 180 again, 360 food has gone through as a result of the pandemic, of delivery models, of all of that. Can you just talk for a minute about that? I mean, I know that you're not in one of those companies right now, but what have you seen in terms of the transformation in the food sector?
Well, I was at Honeybaked when we were going through the pandemic. We did about 5 years worth of work in about 3 weeks. And that was everything from buy online, pick up in store to curbside and consumers were really looking to the brands to be the health providers also. And so sent out a lot of content around how safe the brand was. But for the restaurants, it really is meeting the consumers where they are. And so if it's, the buy online, pick up in store or mobile and purchasing, Chick-fil-A is also a brand I really respect as far as they have figured out how to speed of service and great food and it's hot and
speed of service and speed of operations and speed of innovations. I had Michael McCatherine on, and I went last week to a Chick-fil-A that I was just at 3 months ago, and it has already been completely razed to the ground, and now they're doing a new one. And so, it's unbelievable to me how fast they can move on replatforming, rethinking a footprint, rethinking a consumer base. I really, anybody in food, more power to you. Get your rest because it is crazy. We worked with Valpak, and that's when I really came to appreciate how much franchise food business is in terms of commerce because of their foothold in that area with the promotions, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I love the industry. It's where I grew up. I started as a frontline worker at McDonald's.
Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, it started when I was 16 years old. Drove my Mustang and my big hair to the McDonald's franchise. Got a job giving birthday parties to kids and wore the Hamburglar costume. Passed out chicken McNuggets at the drive-thru. And so the food industry has been a great career for me, one that I love and love to.
You will appreciate, again, this is just how we go full circle. Although I always talk about working in my parents' pharmacy, which I started doing when I was 7. My official first job when I got my work permit was at Wendy's. Oh. And I remember it was a New Year's morning, and I got to start by cleaning the parking lot. So I had the scooper, and I was out cleaning the parking lot. But I think so many people who've cut their teeth in fast food, it's a huge part of learning the ways of the world and being willing to do whatever needs to be done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I am a big tipper now because of I understand how hard it is for servers and
Yeah. So there's your last piece of wisdom, people. Don't be cheap on the tips, right? Really understand what people are doing. Well, I loved having you today on the show, Miss Joanne.
Love you, Moira.
Yeah, love you too. And if you know someone just like Joanne that should be on the show, that should be here, let me know. Drop us a note, send us an email, send up a carrier pigeon. Just really enjoy talking to people that have perspectives on marketing, on business and marketing, and where all that comes together in the world to make it a better place. So remember, there's a fine line between genius and insanity, and we're walking it. I'm Moira Vetter. Join me next time on The Marketing Madhouse.
Returning to Metro Atlanta April 26th to the 28th, the Mitsubishi Electric Classic presented by Venture is Georgia's only PGA Tour Champions event. Enjoy local craft brews and scenic views of the par 3 11th hole and an exciting atmosphere at the Perch. Pick your favorite hole to watch along the ropes or find public seating throughout the course. Children 15 and under receive complimentary tickets with purchase by an adult. Join the party at TPC Sugarloaf in Duluth, Georgia. Tickets available at MitsubishiElectricClassic.com/tickets.
Is this the year you want to grow your business? Do you want to expand your team? Build a new office? Hey, it's Tug, and I want to tell you about First Liberty Building and Loan. Aren't you exhausted by going to lenders, building a relationship, and a week later, you're dealing with a new person? You won't have to with First Liberty Building and Loan. The Frost family has been helping businesses grow since the 90s, and they can help you too. They know the patterns, they know the ebbs and flows, and they know business. Now the Frost family wants to know you. FirstLibertyGA.com. Buying a building, building a building, buying a franchise, or expanding. Reach out and spend 10 minutes with them. See if you're a fit for them and if they're a fit for you. FirstLibertyGA.com. By the way, if you're a young banker and you want to work with a team that's faith-friendly with a culture of excellence, First Liberty might be a good match. Reach out to First Liberty Building and Loan at FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
It's March, and we all know what that means. College basketball.
I know there are teams looking for a bump, but did you know that our friends at LGE Community Credit Union have a bump rate program for their CDs? If you have a CD with them and rates increase during the term, you have one chance to bump your rate, giving you the power to earn even more.
Take it from a pair of 680 The Fan wives. Head to lgeccu.org to find out what makes LGE number one in Georgia.